The President of the United States said this morning that a, quote, whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. That's not a movie trailer. That's not hyperbole from a political opponent. That is the sitting president of the United States with an 8 p.m. deadline expiring, threatening what international law calls genocide against 90 million people. It's Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. I'm Grant Herms, and this is Make It Make Sense. It started Easter Sunday morning around 8 a.m. when Trump posted on Truth Social, and I'm going to read this to you verbatim because you need to hear the actual words. Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it with 3 exclamation points. Open the fucking straight, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah, President Donald J. Trump. According to the White House press secretary, everything posted on the president's Truth Social account is directly from him. So that is the commander-in-chief threatening to bomb civilian infrastructure inside Iran if they don't reach a deal to end the war before 8 p.m. Eastern tonight, which is 3:30 in the morning in Tehran, and then signing off with an insult to the world's second-largest religion just for kicks, during a time of war when American lives are on the line. Now, the president had been out of public view for 5 full days since his national address last week. The White House said it was because he was working nonstop on a rescue mission for 2 U.S. airmen shot down behind enemy lines. And it's worth pausing on that because for weeks, Trump, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and the administration have been saying that the U.S. had complete control of the skies. But Iran still managed to somehow shoot down 2 American aircraft, which Trump called lucky. I don't think the pilots would use that word, although I am glad that they are safe and now on their way home. Then, on Monday at a press conference about those rescue missions, Trump didn't just double down, he escalated. He threatened to take out power plants and bridges all across Iran.
Every bridge in Iran will be decimated by 12 o'clock tomorrow night, where every power plant in Iran will be out of business, burning, exploding, and never to be used again. I mean, complete demolition by 12 o'clock. And it'll happen over a period of 4 hours if we wanted to.
Here's the thing. Blowing up power plants and bridges, even ones that double as military targets, is considered a war crime under the Geneva Convention, which the U.S. signed in 1948. Those rules aren't just international agreements, they're also written into our own military code of law. And as I was recording, there are videos coming out of Iran that appear to be showing lines of people in plain clothes surrounding power plants and gathering on bridges to form human chains. Now, if the Iranian government is directing civilians to do that, which it seems they are, that would be a war crime on their part. But that doesn't give the U.S. legal license to bomb them. 2 wrongs don't make a right here. Then this morning, Trump posted again, and this is where it crosses into completely different territory. He said, quote, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. That is not Trump being off the rails, although it is that. That is the president describing what the law calls a genocide. The Geneva Convention defines genocide, and I am quoting directly here, acts committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group that includes killing members of that group or deliberately inflicting conditions calculated to bring about their physical destruction. Iran has about 90 million people, so the phrase in part is key here because it means almost anything the U.S. could do tonight if civilians are killed might fit that definition. Yale Law School international law expert Una Hathaway put it pretty plainly today. She said, this will be Exhibit A in future war crimes trials if he carries out his threats. Whether or not the president is serious, the words are already on the record. And all this has Republicans rattled. Here is Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson on CNN this morning.
I am hoping and praying that President Trump this really is bluster. I do not want to see us start blowing up civilian infrastructure. I do not want to see that. We are not at war with the Iranian people. You know, we are trying to liberate them.
And New York Congressman Mike Lawler tried to walk it back a little bit, telling CNN that Trump was only talking about power plants and bridges. Still a war crime, but I guess not genocide, so lesser of the two evils, apparently. But then watch what happened when he went on Fox News just a little later.
Again, I don't think we're talking about ending a civilization. The issue. So
you don't believe? Are you saying you don't believe, Congressman? Do you say you don't believe the president's threat? Do you say you don't believe the president's threat?
Infrastructure. It is their energy infrastructure and their civilian infrastructure, including roads and bridges. That will cripple the Iranian regime and certainly their economy. That is not something we want to do because, as Ron Johnson said rightly, we are not at war with the Iranian people. We want them to be free from this oppression. But I think as the president showed last summer with the strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, as he showed in January in Venezuela with the removal of Maduro, and as he showed 5 weeks ago with the beginning of this incursion, he is not bluffing. And I think people misunderestimate at their own peril here.
Okay.
Misunderestimate, that's a word accidentally coined by George W. Bush. For anyone keeping track of how much this feels like 2003 again, you can tick that one off your bingo card. It's also a double negative, so technically it means that people are accurately estimating Trump. The grammar of that aside, what you just watch is the same person sending two completely different messages to two different audiences because he knows that Trump watches Fox and not CNN. But there's this piece that's keeping a lot of people up at night here, or might if this goes past the 8 p.m. deadline. Before Trump made his civilization quote, at Monday's press conference, he said this.
The entire country can be taken out in one night. And that night might be tomorrow night.
And when you put that together with the wipe out of civilization post, you arrive at an uncomfortable question. Because to do what Trump is describing, the U.S. would likely have to use nuclear weapons. And I want to let that sit for just a second. Because this also isn't coming out of nowhere. Last October, Trump told Hegseth to immediately start nuclear testing, something we haven't done in more than 30 years. In February, the START treaty, the last arms reduction agreement between the U.S. and Russia, expired. Trump called it a bad deal and let it die. And right now, both countries can pretty much start producing nuclear weapons again. Arms experts say we could be looking at a new Cold War-style arms race. And it's not the first time Trump has gone here to this nuclear place. During his first term, he threatened to completely destroy North Korea. His former chief of staff, General John Kelly, later talked about a story where Trump wanted to use a nuke against North Korea and then wanted to blame it on another country. Kelly told him it would be kind of hard to pull that off, and Trump, I guess, got distracted and moved on. In the case of Iran, the White House is right now sending mixed signals. They told the AFP that they are not considering nuclear weapons in Iran, but the Huffington Post spoke to senior aides who said they have discussed nukes as a possible step, including Israel launching a nuclear strike. And then there's J.D. Vance, who by insider accounts has never been fully on board with this war, but speaking today in Hungary, where he was heaping praise on dictator Viktor Orban, he said this.
They've got to know we've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use. The President of the United States can decide to use them, and he will decide to use them if the Iranians don't change their course of conduct.
Now, Vance is probably not specifically referencing nuclear weapons here, but with the way Trump is talking, it's hard not to hear it implied in what you just heard. Okay, I know that is a lot, and it is terrifying, so I want to pull back for a second, because there are real signals right now that a deal might happen before 8 p.m. As I'm recording, the White House has been offered a deal by the Pakistani Prime Minister for an extension of 2 weeks. The press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, has said the president has been made aware of this deal proposal and a response will come. That's her direct words. Also, an Iranian-backed militia in Iraq just agreed to release an American journalist they kidnapped last week, which is widely seen as a show of good faith. A scheduled Pentagon press conference that was set for this morning had been canceled, and Trump has been in what's called executive time all day, which is focused work, no public appearances. He hasn't even posted on social media all day long since this morning. And then the White House called a lid after lunch, which means no news out of the White House officially this afternoon or this evening up until that news a little bit ago. Usually this is what happens when serious work is going on and nobody can afford to blow it. The last thing I want to talk about here is kind of the way that Trump thinks about these things, or at least people say he thinks about these things. It's called Madman Theory. It's a negotiating strategy where you behave so erratically and so unpredictably that the other side thinks you might actually be unhinged, and then they capitulate out of fear. It was a favorite of Richard Nixon, and Trump has used versions of this his whole career in business and in politics. The catch is that Madman Theory only works if you're not actually insane. You're bluffing the whole time. The problem right now is that no one, not his staff, not our allies, is sure which one Trump is. And when White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was asked today whether Trump would use nuclear weapons, she told reporters only the president knows where things stand and what he'll do. And with the clock ticking, I guess we're all just going to have to wait and see. If you found this useful, please subscribe, hit the bell, leave a comment with what you're watching tonight. As this deadline hits, I'm Grant Herms. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you next time.